With Star Wars Skeleton Crew's heavy emphasis on the piracy in the Star Wars universe, I of course found myself thinking about the most fan-favorite and notorious pirate scoundrel from across the Star Wars media, Hondo Ohnaka, voiced by beloved Jim Cummings. And I wanted to take some time to go back and look throughout his history of piracy across the Star Wars galaxy, so that's what we're going to do today. I am looking at every canon appearance that he has made and weaving it into the cohesive story that we have thus far in the life and times of the great pirate Hondo Ohnaka. This video is going to be probably a bit long, and I'm going to be reading notes on my phone because there's no way I'm memorizing all of this, so without further ado, here we go! In The Secrets of the Bounty Hunters, which is written by Hondo Ohnaka later in his life, he talks about how in his youth he worked for Porla the Hutt on Boonta. He says, while not the most powerful of his kin, Porla taught me much of what I needed to know to survive in this galaxy. Terrible Hondo impression, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to do more. Between that and his frequent quoting of his beloved criminal mother, it is clear to see why Hondo ended up in the life path that he did when his role models being a Hutt crime boss and a mother who taught him from a young age how to scam people. The 2017 Darth Maul comic series has a brief appearance of Hondo Ohnaka a couple years before the events of The Phantom Menace. When a Jedi Padawan is captured by the criminal underworld, Hondo is part of the auction to see who will get to keep her, which is gross, Hondo. Yuck. Like, let's buy this young woman who's a pirate. Gross. Disgusting. You better have character growth. This is going to be a long video. He does. He has character growth. But his being invited to the event at all shows that he was doing well for himself in the criminal underworld around a decade before we actually meet him in the events of the Clone Wars series. And as Hondo recounts in The Secrets of the Bounty Hunters, around this time he and the bounty hunter Aura Singh were in a romantic entanglement, and they ran with the same crew. They were friends with Jango Fett and Cad Bane, and they made many enemies together until the time came when they ended their romantic fling. Now jumping forward to Season 1, Episodes 11 and 12 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, that being Dooku captured and the Gungan General. When Count Dooku crashes on Vagar, he is picked up by Hondo Ohnaka, who is scavenging the shipwreck, and he kindly offers to escort Dooku to the port on the planet Florum. But he pickpockets his lightsaber off of his belt during the transit. Seeing the lightsaber, he mistakes Dooku for a Jedi, but when Dooku's like, "How dare you, I am a Sith Lord," he realizes who it is that he has prisoner and decides to ransom him off to the Republic. Not the Separatists, because he knows that they'll do some retribution for capturing the leader of their entire political movement. So in this intro to his character, Hondo shows himself to be both skilled and cunning as a pirate, pickpocketing off a Sith Lord and managing to get him captive. The Republic sends along Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, because of course it does, to confirm that Hondo is not lying about having Dooku hostage. Once they send confirmation to the Republic that they should send along Hondo's requested 1 million credits worth of spice for the ransom payment, Hondo poisons the Jedi's drinks. They suspect this and swap their drinks with the pirates next to them, but still end up getting drugged, which means that Hondo had to have both drugged their drinks and also the drinks of the people drinking around them, just to make sure that they ended up poisoned and unconscious so he can capture them and then ransom them off to the Republic as well for even more money. This dude is conniving. When a fellow pirate on his crew, Turk, plans to steal the spice before it reaches Hondo, but then that plan fails, he lies to Hondo and says that the Republic arrived with soldiers instead of delivering the ransom. In retribution, Hondo begins torturing Obi-Wan and Anakin. However, the power system to his whole pirate complex is destroyed due to Jar Jar Binks' shenanigans. He's the person who arrived with the ransom on behalf of the Republic. This allows for the Jedi and Dooku to escape custody. Dooku flees the system, and even though the Republic is there to pick up Obi-Wan and Anakin, Obi-Wan decides to let Hondo go, not take him into custody, as the Republic has no quarrel with the pirates and the Jedi do not seek revenge. Hondo is surprised and astounded by this, and he gains some respect for the Jedi after this first interaction. In Season 2, Episode 17 of the Clone Wars, titled Bounty Hunters, this is the next time we see Hondo, and he is extorting a farming village. Dude. The farmers on Felucia have hired 4 bounty hunters to protect them from the pirates, and Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka have stumbled into the situation after crash landing on the planet. They seem to do that a lot. Crash land on planets, and then just stumble into situations. I guess these things happen. Obi-Wan strategizes with the bounty hunters, Ahsoka sets perimeter defenses, and Anakin teaches the farmers how to fight, so when the pirates attack, things seem to be going well for the farmers at first, until Hondo starts gleefully raining down fire from a tank overlooking the village. He shouts, "Die, Jedi scum!" and is really not holding back at all as he tries to shoot Anakin directly in the face with a tank, so his respect for the Jedi only goes so far, apparently. Eventually, he and his men are driven off, with Hondo declaring that this effort is no longer profitable as they leave the system, because truly all this man cares about at this point in his life is profit. In Season 2, Episode 22, Leaf will track down Aura Singh, his ex, and young Boba Fett are on the run from the Jedi with some Republic hostages, trying to lure Mace Windu out to avenge the death of Jango Fett. They stop on Florham to meet up with Hondo. The Jedi track down the Slave One to Florham, and Hondo says that he will not get involved in a fight with the Jedi, but he won't hinder Aura and her crew either. When Plo Koon and Ahsoka land, Hondo is up front with the information that they are walking into a trap, so that the Jedi know that he is not involved. Aura flees the fight, allowing Boba Fett to be captured. When he won't reveal the location of the hostages, Plo Koon takes him to Hondo. Hondo says to just tell the Jedi what they want to know, as it's the honorable thing to do, and his father, Jango, was an honorable man. With Boba's intel, Ahsoka is able to save the hostages from Bossk and Aura Singh in time. The Jedi take Boba and Bossk into custody and leave Hondo in peace once again. In Season 5, Episode 5, Tipping Points, rebels against the separatist occupation on Onderon find themselves outgunned, and the Republic is unable to officially offer support. So Anakin Skywalker goes to Florham to make a deal with Hondo. He pays Hondo very handsomely to have weapons smuggled to the rebels. Hondo is happy to do business, but flees Onderon quickly when fighting breaks out after his weapon delivery is done. Soon after, in Season 5, Episodes 7 through 9, A Test of Strength, Bound for Rescue, and A Necessary Bond, Hondo is tipped off about a Jedi cruiser that just left the ice planet Ilum, where Jedi younglings complete the gathering ritual. He knows that even one Kyber crystal is worth a fortune on the black market, so he is not playing any games as he attacks and boards the ship, disabling their engines, and he tells his men to kill anyone that gets in the way of their profit, even though they are just children. Ahsoka, who is escorting the younglings, comments that Hondo is much less hospitable when they last met, to which he replies that his mood depends on profit. When Ahsoka is able to kick the pirates back onto their ship, allowing the younglings' ship to escape, Hondo is quite upset. He captures Ahsoka and says that since she has cost him so much profit, she will now become his profit. Dude, stop kidnapping young Jedi, or trying to kidnap young Jedi, and sell them for a profit. Not cool! They take Ahsoka back to Florham and get drunk. After Ahsoka threatens him with consequences if he doesn't release her, Hondo taunts her by offering her a drink of water, then snatching it away before it can reach her lips. I mean, holy cow! Writing all this stuff down and reading it out loud, it's just becoming harder to like this guy. To add to his men's entertainment and merriment, Hondo is visited by Priego's traveling carnival act, which has apparently visited Hondo's base many times before. Hondo is very excited by their arrival, even though he cut off the heads of an act that disappointed him the last time they were there. What the oh, dude! Little does he know, but Ahsoka immediately realizes that the younglings have disguised themselves as the carnival's latest acrobatic act, Animal Instinct. They invite Hondo up to join the act, which he does after laughing, drinking more, and declaring, "I may not be as young as I once was, but I am older." How can one episode make me both loathe and love a character so much. While he's up there, the younglings pickpocket Ahsoka's lightsaber off his belt, then one of the younglings sneaks over to her while the pirates are distracted by the act. They launch Hondo into the air, and he drunkenly and gleefully exults that he's flying! They don't do anything to catch him, however, as he is launched straight into a support beam of his base. The Jedi steal a speeder and escape. As pirates on speeders pursue the young Jedis escaping, General Grievous arrives on the planet with a droid army to take over all of their wealth and weapons for the Separatists and to get some revenge for that time he kidnapped Count Dooku. Held in his own prison while the droids begin dismantling his fleet, Hondo is in a bad spot until Ahsoka, the younglings, and the pirates he sent to recapture them come to Hondo's rescue. He acts like the whole thing is hopeless, though, to force the younglings to hype themselves up, and he gives one of the younglings the courage that she needs to finish constructing her lightsaber. Ahsoka asks him why he would do this, and he says he doesn't like taking children into battle, which is very different than the other day when he was ready to just kill them for some crystals, but whatever. But he says that today's a new day, and today he likes children. They free the rest of Hondo's men, and together they fight the droids and take speeders to escape the base. Hondo ends up with the youngling he encouraged earlier, Katuni, on his speeder. They're all heading to Hondo's hidden hangar of ships on the planet, but get separated in the chase. In the hangar is the Slave One, now repaired from when it was damaged and crashed after the Jedi fought Aurra Sing on the planet earlier. Hondo is about to take it and ditch the rest of the Jedi, but Katuni guilts him into helping them. And just in time too, as Grievous has caught up with the Jedi. The younglings get aboard the Slave One while Ahsoka holds Grievous off. They all escape the planet together. Safely back on General Kenobi's ship, Hondo tries to convince the Republic to pay him for rescuing the Jedi. When Obi-Wan counters that he tried to hijack a Republic ship, Hondo just acts indignant and leaves on the Slave One, but not before giving an appreciative nod to Katuni. And now it seems that he has actually started to change his tune ever so slightly. In Season 5, Episode 1, yes, some of the Clone Wars episodes are out of order chronologically, it's weird. Hondo and his crew have returned to their base on Florum after the Separatists leave. After a while, Darth Maul and his brother Savage Opress begin to seek a criminal army of their own. They bribe or threaten several of Hondo's men to work for them, but Hondo refuses to swear allegiance to Maul. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Adi Gallia, who have been tracking Maul, contact Hondo and agree to fight the two Sith while Hondo deals with his traitorous men. His battle cry to his men is, "I want their tongues!" After Savage brutally kills Adi Gallia, Kenobi and Hondo are forced to retreat inside Hondo's base. As Kenobi lures the two Sith brothers away, Hondo leads the traitors into an ambush. Rather than kill them, he convinces them all to work for him again, and together they claim Maul's riches that he was going to pay them with. The pirates chase Maul and Savage off their planet, shooting down their ship and indeed claiming their riches, even though the duo manages to get away on an escape pod. And that's the last time that we see Hondo in the Clone Wars series, but in the novel, the paperback novel version of Star Wars Dark Disciple, there is a little prequel story called Kindred Spirits, also by Christie Golden. While Hondo is away on business, he orders his men to hijack a smuggler ship and unload its cargo at their Florum base. When he returns, he finds that rival pirate captain Losa Rame and former Sith assassin turned bounty hunter Asajj Ventress fighting his crew for the ship. The duo end up winning and escaping with the haul, and that is actually the last time that we see him, even though so briefly, in the Clone Wars era. The Republic falls, the Empire rises, and in the years after the founding of the Galactic Empire, antiquities collector Dak Ondar from Batuu, remember that planet, it's gonna come up a lot in Hondo's life from here on, hires Hondo to help him steal from the Guardians of the Wills on the holy planet of Jeddah. This flashback occurs in the Galaxy's Edge comic, issue 3. Hondo fights off several Guardians while Dak Ondar uses a laser torch to cut out the object he's after, a 2,000-year-old statue carved into Kyber by a Jedi sculptor with a lightsaber. They grab the statue and begin making their way out, only to find it blocked by Chirrut Imwe. Love that dude. Even though he is blind, Hondo finds he is more than a capable combatant. Dakandar manages to stop the fight when he tells Chirrut that he has nothing but respect for the Guardians, and only wants this artifact because the only similar one was delivered to him in a box belonging to his parents after their death. This statue could be a clue that helps him finally solve their murder. Chirrut, convinced by this story, lets them go. They escape an Imperial Star Destroyer and hyperdrive back to Batuu, where, assumingly, Hondo gets paid. Notably, at some point, probably a little bit before here, maybe around here, Hondo's entire pirate crew is dismantled by the Galactic Empire, and he becomes more of a solo agent. The next time that we see Hondo in the Forces of Destiny animated series, Season 2, Episode 16, Triple Cross, we see Hondo many, many years after the rise of the Galactic Empire. Kira, Han Solo's partner from the Solo movie, is now a lieutenant in Crimson Dawn and has earned enough of a bounty on her head and is difficult enough to capture that Hondo teams up with IG-88 to apprehend her and split the bounty. When she tricks Hondo into bragging about how big of a bounty is on his head, IG-88 betrays Hondo and the two fight. Hondo temporarily disables IG-88, while Kira picks the lock on her cuffs and puts them onto Hondo. With both Hondo and IG-88 captured, Kira plans on turning them in for a reward. The Secrets of the Bounty Hunters makes it clear that Hondo is a member of the Bounty Hunters Guild at this time, but he would eventually be kicked out, most likely because he admits to never having read the rules of the guild. When Hondo stops in the city of Fikiana on Kashyyyk, which is sadly firmly under Imperial control at the time, he stops by the Lost Items office and finds the Smuggler's Guide, a book of information, treasure locations, and underworld contacts written by legendary pirate queen Maz Kanata. He peruses through the book, gaining the insight he wants and making some notes of his own throughout it. Actually, that's what this book is. It's gathering of the notes and the stories of the travels of the book. Maz's book inspires Hondo to think of writing a book of his own one day, to pass down the knowledge of the underworld and piracy that he has acquired throughout life. He comes up with several quotes of wisdom for his book, which he ends up titling The Book of Hondo. The quotes include, "Never trust anyone more charming than yourself. Only a fool takes the first offer," and "Stay nimble, for speed can outrun suspicion." Hondo then comes up with a brilliant scheme to make some quick credits. He returns to Florum, where, as he puts it, the dregs of the Ohnaka gang cling to the bottom of a bottle. There, he recruits a master forger, Bar the Rotter, to begin making identical copies of the Smuggler's Guide. They then travel to Balmora, where Hondo recruits the Marquis, who has influence on the black market. They set up a first auction above the casino floor of Zertran's Anchor. In attendance were agents from the Rang Gang, the Xrexis Cartel, and a front company for the Hutts. Bidding was to start at 75,000 credits. But things quickly went sideways, as the Rang Gang brought along Dr. Afra, a criminal archaeologist, who easily identified the relic as a fake. Not the least of the reasons because Bar the Rotter apparently misspelled Maz Kanata's name on the fake copy. The Xrexis Cartel unleashes their droidica to kill Hondo and his two associates. Hondo rushes to the turbolift and closes the door to flee, leaving Bar the Rotter and the Marquess to die. After this ordeal, Hondo decided that he wanted to focus on becoming a pirate once more. Eventually, his treasure hoard would be raided by rival pirate Gunda Mammon, captain of the Bloody Bones. That's just a sick pirate name. She leaves Hondo alive to spread her name and infamy, but takes the Smuggler's Guide from him, along with a large amount of coaxium, some jewels, some weapons, some fancy clothes, some tech, and some booze. Because Hondo always got some booze. At some point in his life, Hondo does end up writing the Book of Hondo, and it would go on to inspire future generations of pirates, including the Crimson Corsair. In the framing narrative around the Forces of Destiny Volume 4 animated short story collection, on one of their jobs together, Hondo Ohnaka and Maz Kanata score plenty of treasure that they plan on selling and splitting the profits 50-50. While they are flying on Maz's ship to the buyer, Hondo betrays Maz and locks her in the brig of her own ship. He promises that he plans on releasing her as soon as he sells all the items and keeping the profit for himself. Maz manages to hotwire the brig's force field and trigger an alarm. She hides while Hondo goes to investigate. Then, once he looks for her inside her cell, she leaps out and reactivates the force field. He chuckles at the occurrence, saying he liked working with her because she keeps him on his toes. She then says that she plans on abiding by the original deal, splitting the profits 50-50, and he is disgusted by the fairness. Sickening. In Pirate's Price by Lou Anders, the majority of the novel takes place a little while after Han Solo wins the Millennium Falcon from the notorious Lando Calrissian. After a night of debauchery and getting on the bad side of an Imperial officer by forcing him to dance at a casino by shooting at his feet, Hondo crash lands on a swampy backwater world with a small port town. At this point in his life, he is miserable with how his life has turned out after losing his pirate crew, and being alone doing small jobs when once he was an infamous pirate captain. He decides to start anew by finding a medium-sized ship to steal and getting a new crew. The ship that his eyes land on, the Millennium Falcon. While he is in the middle of meddling with the Falcon's computer, Han Solo and Chewbacca come back aboard with a passenger they've been hired to transport, a human woman named Majo Rilu. Hondo hides in the Falcon's smuggling compartments as the ship takes off. When he overhears Majo try to convince Solo to extend the plan to include stealing rare crystals from the undervaults of Guandine, Hondo reveals himself to try to join in on the plan. After Imperials try to board the Falcon to capture Hondo, Solo is forced to accept Hondo's help in disabling a bypass that Hondo himself put into the ship's hyperdrive while he was messing with the ship's computer. They slip into hyperspace, and Hondo convinces Majo and Chewbacca, who is impressed by Hondo's ability to speak fluent Shriwook and use Wookiee proverbs correctly, into letting him join in on the heist. Their first stop is the moon of Dandu 3, where Hondo is set to steal a key to the vault from Majo's mark. While on their way, Hondo plays hollow chess with Majo and comments that she is a unique individual, trying to butter her up as he is wont to do with, well, everyone. But this comment causes her to freak out, proclaiming that she is not unique. He's puzzled by this until she starts winning at the game, and he starts focusing on that again. Arriving at Dandu 3, Hondo, Solo, Chewbacca, and Majo are astounded to see the city is built not on the ground, but atop the backs of giant shelled reptiles called torlossuses, with different neighborhoods and districts built on the back of different creatures. In this manner, as the herd of giant turtle-like torlossuses move, the very layout of the city shifts throughout the day, and the inhabitants wake up to a different horizon every morning. Hondo ponders that one day he may like to retire here, or a place like here, seeing a different horizon every morning. They find their mark, J.R. Lewins, the spoiled son of a wealthy arms merchant, and Hondo goes to pickpocket the vault key off of him. However, after picking all of his pockets, Hondo discovers that the key is not on him, but is held by the bulking Gregorian bodyguard that he keeps with him. A new plan comes to Hondo, and he starts a fake fight with Solo for the spectacle of it, though Solo is all too happy to punch Hondo in the face. The fight spiraling out as more and more people get involved in this now brawl. Eventually, Hondo is shoved into the Gregorian and quickly snatches the key off of him. It looks like they'll be able to make a clean getaway until a group of Pachyphontos, elephant-like aliens, led by one Trunk Addermush, recognizes Solo and call out that he owes them 15,000 credits, though he insists it's only 12,000 that he owes them. The Pachyphontos chase Solo and Chewbacca off the cracks of the city between the torlossuses, between their massive crushing legs, and back up again. Hondo suggests leaving them and stealing the Falcon, but Majo guilts him into helping them instead. The four race into the Falcon and take off, but the Pachyphontos pursue in fighters, so Hondo and Majo man the Falcon's cannons. They fend the fighters off until the Falcon can jump off into hyperspace. It's not a straight shot, though, as the Falcon is thrown out of hyperspace by a supernova in their path. Solo manages to defy death and destruction to navigate the Falcon through the wake of the supernova and get them to Guandine. Majo hugs everyone, then says she didn't expect to like a group of scoundrels so much, so she is sorry about this. Hondo catches on just too late that she put a device on everyone while she was hugging them, and she electrocutes him, Han, and Chewie into unconsciousness. Because he had started to loosen his device, Hondo wakes up first. Betrayed out of the heist, Hondo decides that he can at least get the Falcon out of the deal. He pushes Solo unceremoniously off the boarding ramp, but Chewie wakes up before Hondo can finish dragging his enormous Wookiee body down. Chewbacca grabs Hondo by the neck and hoists him up into the air. Hondo resigns himself to death by Wookiee, saying that he used to live a fulfilling life, and he thought that perhaps with a ship like the Falcon he could again, but now he sees that his journey is destined to end. To his surprise, Chewie puts him down. Chewbacca states a Wookiee proverb about trees that grow stronger by having their roots wrap around each other, telling Hondo that what matters is not what ship you fly in, but who you tie your life to. With that, Han, Chewie, and Hondo sneak into the undervaults to pursue Majo. Hondo thinks of the plan to enter by having them climb inside the shells of giant snail-like creatures native to Guandine. Once inside, they split up to search for Majo, after passing many vault users, including a Kaminoan, which Hondo notes how rare it is to see a Kaminoan after the Clone Wars and the subsequent destruction of Tapoka City that we get to see in The Bad Batch. Hondo spots Majo. He follows her into JR's vault, which is distinctly lacking in the promised Novian rubies. What the heck? Majo is not surprised by this, though, as she explains that there were never any rubies here. She wanted to break into this vault because it is adjacent to the vault belonging to black market Kaminoan scientist Kolak Pru, who is going to bring back from the dead the deadly thornsuckle plant from extinction for a profit. She planned on planting a defoliator bomb, Clone Wars tech that only kills biomatter in its explosive radius but is harmless to objects or droids, to kill the last living sample of this deadly plant in his vault. At this point, Solo catches them chatting pleasantly and assumes that Hondo was in on the double cross, which, to be fair, is very much in Hondo's MO, though he is slowly changing out of his betraying ways. Hondo de-escalates things, and Majo fills Solo and Chewie in. When Hondo points out that he saw a Kaminoan withdrawing from a nearby vault, Majo panics as she realizes that Kolak Pru already took the thornsuckle plant. She begs Han, Chewie, and Hondo to help, but they all refuse, seeing no profit in it for them. Chewie asks, offhandedly, who's funding Pru's research, and they are all horrified to learn that the Mandragonian mob wants this deadly plant. They are a group that the whole group of scoundrels recognizes as vile enough that they would absolutely turn it into a bioweapon capable of wiping out the life on an entire planet. With such high stakes, the scoundrels agree to help. With 15 minutes until the defoliator bomb detonates, the crew chases Kolak Pru to the docks. There, they are confronted by a clone identical to Majo and Kolak Pru's hired guns, Trunk Artemash's gang of Pakifantos. Maja fights evil Maja, Solo and Chewie hold off the Pakifantos, and Hondo chases after Kolak. Hondo and Kolak end up in a standoff until evil Maja comes up behind Hondo with the blaster, forcing him to let Kolak board his ship with the deadly plant. It seems that all is lost until Hondo, Han, and Chewie realize that it was not evil Maja, but rather their Maja who went up with Kolak. She brought the defoliator bomb with her, which would have killed the thornsuckle plant, Kolak, and Maja as well. Hondo admires that she was able to die for her cause and finish what she set out to do. While Solo and Chewbacca finish dealing with the last of the Pakifantos, Hondo has the chance to steal the Millennium Falcon once more. He goes into the cockpit, sits in the pilot's seat, but just can't bring himself to steal the ship from Han and Chewie. He departs as friends with Chewbacca, while Han says that he hopes never to see Hondo again, which, fair. Hondo remarks that this had not been a profitable adventure, but it was a valuable one. The next time we see Hondo is on screen during the Rebels animated series in Season 2, Episode 6, Brothers of the Broken Horn. Many years later, when young Jedi in training and young Rebel Ezra Bridger and notorious war criminal droid Chopper respond to a distress signal from the Broken Horn. On board, they meet Hondo Ohnaka, who talks them into helping him with a job selling some rare power generators. When the buyer, the sleazy criminal As Morrigan, sees that it's Hondo selling the generators, he betrays them to kill Hondo and collect on a bounty on his head. Chopper comes to the rescue and a fight ensues. In the chaos, Ezra has to use the Force to save Hondo from being flung out into space, exposing him as a Jedi to the old pirate. Hondo says that he is an old Jedi sympathizer. One of his best friends was a Jedi. Well, he thinks they were friends. Having won the fight, Hondo and Ezra get to keep the generators they were going to sell, as well as the credits that As Morrigan was going to pay them to buy the generators with. Ezra says that Hondo can keep all the credits if he can keep the generators for the rebellion. Back on the Broken Horn, Ezra discovers the ship's true owner, Vizago, in the brig. Ezra owes Vizago a favor from previously in the Rebels series, so he lets them out and tries to negotiate a peaceful resolution to the conflict between him and Hondo. Vizago, though, is not interested and turns his ship's security droids onto Hondo and Ezra. While Ezra fights off the droids, Hondo escapes with both the credits and the generators and steals the ship that Ezra originally arrived in, the Phantom, to escape. Oh, Hondo. That sneaky old so-and-so almost gets away, except for the fact that Chopper had the Phantom on autopilot, so it just automatically returns to Ezra's rebel cell on the Ghost. Hondo talks his way into returning the Phantom and the generators and walking away on good terms with Ezra, if not the rest of the Ghost crew. Then in Rebels Season 2, Episode 14, Legends of the Lasat, when Hondo crosses paths with two Lasat refugees, the Lasat being a species driven to the edge of extinction by the genocidal tendencies of the Empire, he remembers that there was a Lasat on the crew of the Ghost, Zeb. He contacts Ezra and lets him know where to find the refugees to help them. Then, knowing that the rebels were coming to save them, he contacts the Empire so he can collect the reward for selling them out. Seems like a good business idea to me, Hondo. When has betraying your friends ever hurt you before? Ezra and the crew of the Ghost arrive, saving the Lasat refugees and uniting them with Zeb. When the rebels go to leave, Hondo asks if he's not getting a finder's fee, to which Ezra replies that there never was, and then a finder's fee, and then he leaves. This makes Hondo extremely proud of Ezra. I'm so proud of that boy. When the Empire arrives on the scene, Hondo both talks slowly to delay them, while also asking for a reward for pointing them in the direction of the rebels. He then calls Ezra to let him know that stormtroopers are on the way, and during the shootout, he closes some blast doors on the stormtroopers so the rebels aren't completely surrounded. This is the Hondo that I remember, a good-hearted but greedy little shit. And it's having finally arrived to the version of the character that I remember. It was fun to see his trajectory from truly just scumbag to fun scumbag to having a few moments scattered throughout of character growth and caring. And he's still a little shit who's looking out for himself. But at the end of the day, he's doing the right thing in his own way. Hondo is captured by the Empire and brought to Agent Callus, who has been hunting the Ghost crew for some time. They force him to use the tracker he placed on his comm device with Ezra to track the Ghost to the edge of wild space. The Empire has the Ghost between them and a dangerous space anomaly, but the Ghost manages to escape by flying right into that anomaly like we all knew they would, because that's the way you get out in Star Wars. After this incident, Hondo is taken to an Imperial prison. Sometime later, in Rebels Season 3, Episodes 1 and 2, Steps into Shadow, Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, and Chopper stage a rescue for Hondo, and his cellmate and new friend Turba, who just happens to be there and benefiting from all this, from an Imperial prison on Niraka in exchange for some information that the two have. During the breakout, Ezra shows how much more of a capable warrior he has become since Hondo last crossed paths with him. That was a surprisingly hard sentence to say. Panicking from the ensuing fight, Turbo rushes ahead and gets himself killed by an Imperial walker. Everybody else is pinned down from fire from stormtroopers and the walker until Ezra is able to use the Force to manipulate the walker's pilot into firing on his own men and then walking the walker off the ledge and to his death. Jeez Louise, Ezra. The framing, the looks of horror on all of the rebels' faces, and the musical scoring makes it abundantly clear that Ezra is tapping into the dark side of the Force here, but that's not really important to Hondo, so we're just going to keep moving on. The rebels and Hondo jump on top of the Ghost to escape the prison complex. They return to the rebel base, where Hondo is promised a new ship if his intel turns out to be good. Hondo's intel leads the rebels to a hidden Imperial salvage yard where Turba used to work until he was arrested for trying to escape, where the rebels could obtain a squadron of Y-Wing bombers. Hondo then joins Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, Chopper, and clone Captain Rex on the Phantom for a scouting mission to confirm his intel on the salvage operation. After escaping a mining guild patrol at a hyperdrive point, they arrive at the station and see that the Y-Wings are currently being smelted. Ezra, who was put in charge of this mission after the success of his prison break plan, orders the team to change the plan from recon to recovery against the advice of the whole rest of the team. As they enter atmosphere, the Phantom is attacked by dismantler droids that patrol around the station. The Phantom is damaged and falls into an atmospheric storm, which leads the Empire station commander to believe that it was destroyed. The Phantom recovers and sneakily attaches itself onto the station. When the team disembarks, they run into the Ugnaughts forced to work at the station. Hondo, speaking to them in Ugnaught, tells them that he was Turbo's friend and offers to liberate them in exchange for their help stealing the Y-Wings. While the rebels refuel the Y-Wings and disable the station, Hondo and his new Ugnaught friends steal an Imperial shuttle and flee the station. He gets his ship after all. In Rebels Season 3, Episode 9, the Weequay job, Ezra and Hondo get in touch again when the rebellion has been unsuccessfully searching for a source of proton bombs for some time now. Hondo puts them in touch with Morrigan, who has the manifest of an Imperial cruiser that has been abandoned after it was caught in a dangerous atmospheric storm. The manifest suggests that it has both the proton bombs that the rebels need and stolen treasure that Hondo wants because he's a greedy little bastard. The ship is slowly sinking into the storm, so Zeb, Ezra, Chopper, Hondo, and Morrigan all head aboard to retrieve their various prizes. There, they discover an Ugnaught member of Hondo's crew, Melch, who Hondo abandoned there after he and Morrigan disabled this ship with an ion mine and it drifted into the storm. Zeb is annoyed that Hondo didn't tell the whole truth, but Hondo retorts that some of the truth is better than none of the truth, which is what he used to give, so he has grown. The cargo hold is in fact full of everything that was promised, much to Hondo and Morrigan's glee. They argue over which treasure belongs to who as the Ghost crew opens the cargo bay doors and begins to offload the cargo. When Morrigan and Zeb activate the ship's sentry droids, everybody needs to make a hot exit from the cargo bay. The rebellion gets their proton bombs, but it turns out that the only treasure box Hondo and Morrigan were able to recover held Melch inside, as he wanted to ensure that Hondo didn't leave him behind again, and he knew that Hondo would never leave behind treasure. Hondo's like, no, I knew you were in there. This is good news. In the 2017 Star Wars Adventures comic series, issues 7 through 8, the Endangered storyline, Hondo sends intel to the crew of the Ghost about the location of the Argora, a one-of-a-kind bird that is sacred to the people of planet Zendrick for its supposed mystical gifts, possible connection to the Force. The bird has been taken by the Empire to be part of the Emperor's personal zoo, and is currently on an Imperial cargo ship with other endangered animals as well. The crew breaks in and discovers Hondo in the process of stealing the bird for a profit, and he only contacted the crew of the Ghost to help distract the Empire. Yeah. But it turns out that while he was searching for the Argora bird, he also opened every other crate on the ship to see if it was inside. Running from both the animals and the Empire, Hondo is stopped from escaping by Ezra while Kanan uses the Force to subdue the animals and direct the rage back to their captors, the Empire. While the Imperials are running, Hondo directs them right into a holding cell and locks them in. Hondo then tries to leave with the bird, but once Ezra uses the Force to free it, it begins attacking him, so he flees empty-handed. Back on his stolen Imperial shuttle, which he has repainted with his pirate colors, he wonders if the Zendekians will pay him if he takes credit for freeing the bird. Yeah! Hondo is a part of the finale of the Rebels series in Season 4, Episodes 14 and 15, A Fool's Hope, and Family Reunion and Farewell. Hondo is contacted by Hera Syndulla and asked to meet with a small team at Jupa Base, a modified AT-AT walker, on the remote world of Selos. It's an eclectic group, with those present being Hera, Captain Rex, Agent Callus, who has since defected from the Empire, Hondo, Melch, clones Gregor and Wolf, and the Mandalorian mercenary Ketsu Onyo. Hondo wonders both what the job is and how they'll be splitting the profits. Hera says that this isn't a mission for the rebellion, it's for Ezra. They're going to liberate his homeworld of Lothal from the Empire's grasp once and for all. Wolf notes that their odds of success against a planet of Imperials are difficult. Hondo agrees, but says that Ezra has spirit and reminds him of a time when there was still something you could believe in. When asked if he's in, Hondo takes off his hat and very earnestly states that for that boy, there is nothing I would not do. With the team assembled on the Ghost, they use Hondo's pirating expertise to sneak past the Imperial blockade of Lothal by waiting in the path of a cargo freighter and attaching to it as it hurriedly speeds by. With that, the Ghost arrives just in time for their part in Ezra's plan to lure the Imperial governor out to the rebel base and capture her. Just as she believes she has the rebels captured, the Ghost blasts onto the scene, taking out Imperial air support and dropping off the clones and Agent Callus's ground support. Hondo and Melch operate the Ghost's turrets to blast the Imperial ships, and with that, Imperial Governor Price is captured by Ezra's rebels. Using Price and her landing codes, the team flies to Lothal's capital city and lands at the Dome, the headquarters of Imperial operations on the planet. They blast their way into securing the landing platform, then Hondo heads up the part of Ezra's plan that sees Zeb launching Melch into the glass exterior of the Dome's control tower, causing all the Imperials inside to look there at the Ugnaught splayed on their windshield and be distracted at the moment that Ezra and his team swoop in to capture the head of the base. From there, they issue the order for all Imperial forces in the city to return to the Dome. They plan to launch the Dome into orbit and have it self-destruct, but Grand Admiral Thrawn arrives and outmaneuvers them. He parks his Star Destroyer above the Dome, so if they launch, it will destroy them, the Star Destroyer, and the city, which Ezra is certainly not willing to do. He then demands that Ezra surrender himself, bombarding the city until he does. Ezra goes to turn himself in, while the rest of the team goes to secure the planetary shield in the Dome, so that way they can activate it to protect the planet from Thrawn's bombardment. Hondo, Rex, and Ketsu go to capture the north shield of the tower. During the shootout to reactivate the generator, Melch is shot and killed, and Hondo seems genuinely upset. As the shield is reactivated and the city is saved, Hondo begins to tear up over Melch's body, saying that he has failed his crew once again, and I believe that he genuinely feels it after his crew getting run off of their base by the Empire, and that moment of feeling the need to start again in Pirate's Price. Like, yeah, I believe he actually feels bad for failing his crew once again. It's old wounds being brought up again. It's nice to see the real Hondo shine through in the Rebels' final arc. And I almost wish that Melch really did die, but he gets up and hugs Hondo before he can actually say how much that Melch meant to him. Which was cute, but I get it, it's a kid's show, but I do kind of wish that there was some... I don't know, I guess it's also nice that his crew didn't die, but then we never see Melch again, so. Back at the control tower, the team watches as Ezra sacrifices himself to have the Purrgil, giant hyperspace traveling whales, just go with it, destroy the Imperial blockade and launch Thrawn's Star Destroyer into hyperspace. With the sky clear, they're able to continue the original plan. The Dome launches up over the sea and self-destructs while the rebels escape on the Ghost. The planet is liberated from the Empire and the people cheer, rising up to round up the last of the Imperials on the planet. And Hondo got to see, once again, someone that he trusts and cares for sacrifice themselves to complete the mission. Not long after the destruction of Alderaan in Halcyon Legacy comic issue 4, Hondo is seeking to become a legitimate businessman and start a transporting company. This is his big dream. However, he needs the funds to start the business, so he and Lando Calrissian take a job from pirate queen Maz Kanata to steal from the illicit treasure vault of Imperial General Cardin on the Halcyon Starcruiser. Maz meets with the general to sell him what she claims to be the crown jewels of Alderaan, which of course have increased massively in value after the planet's destruction. He transfers her 80,000 credits and places the jewels in his vault. There, the jewels are able to mess with this vault's security cams, making it appear as if Hondo is already inside the vault through a holoprojector. The general panics and begins the 3-minute process of opening the vault. Hondo, who has been playing sabacc on the lower decks of the ship, is then chased by stormtroopers acting as the ship's security. This distraction allows for Lando, disguised as an Imperial officer, to make his way up to the vault and assist the general with moving the valuables to his shuttle. He loads as much treasure as he can into a valuable crate hewn from a rocher tree on Kashyyyk thousands of years ago. When the three meet back up, Maz surprises the other two by dumping all of the valuables out of the box. It was the box that she was after, as it was a gift given to her long ago by Chewbacca. The other two are paid with an even split of the credits that Maz received from General Cardin. She reports Cardin's illegal stash of goods to the Imperial Security Bureau, and that will put an end to his illegal stocking of goods like her stuff that he took. Hondo is glad to have the credits to start his legitimate business, and Lando was just glad to have one last adventure before starting his new administrative job at Cloud City. Sometime after hopping back over to the events of Galaxy's Edge issue 3, while Hondo is enjoying a drink at the cantina on Batuu, he is approached by Dr. Aphra, the criminal archaeologist who once foiled a plan, but Hondo doesn't hold grudges. She has discovered where the Blade of Cassian is located, but she needs a ship to get there. Hondo gets her in contact with Dok-Ondar, who would be interested in discovering a Sith relic such as this. In Sana Starros issue 5, Jand, a fellow Weequay criminal, contacts Hondo to say that he's too busy to take a job helping his friend, Sana Starros, rescue her family from the Empire, so he asks Hondo to take his place. Hondo agrees and flies to assist Sana Starros and Diva Lumpop as he deals with TIE fighters above the icy world of Hynestia. In Star Wars Outlaws, when Kay Vess first lands in the small town of Wayfar on Tatooine, she meets the Sheriff Quint Crusade, who is described by the Hutts as having previously run with Hondo Ohnaka's former gang. That's the only Easter egg mention of him that I've noticed in the game so far, but Hondo himself is set to cross paths with Kay Vess in an upcoming DLC for the Outlaws game. This game takes place between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. All that we know thus far about his involvement in this DLC is that Hondo will be looking to settle old scores with a ruthless gang of pirates, so who knows who that could be, but I'm excited to play because I enjoyed Outlaws. In The Secrets of the Bounty Hunters by Mark Sumerak, we learn that it's around this time, in the year between The Empire Strikes Back and The Return of the Jedi, that Ohnaka Transport Solutions is starting to take off. Like Kay Vess, Hondo takes jobs from many criminal syndicates, including Crimson Dawn, the Pikes, and the Hutts. On one such job, Hondo is to transport 10,000 Clatoonier, the patty frog things that Jabba eats. He's going to transfer 10,000 of those to Jabba, but he has to jettison the cargo during an Imperial attack. Then later, perhaps as revenge against the Empire for having destroyed his Ohnaka gang, or perhaps still holding a soft spot for the rebellion that his dear friend Ezra Bridger helped inspire, a shipment of weapons bound for Endor that Ohnaka Transport Solutions was hired to take care of for Admiral Piet just so happened to be intercepted by rebel forces. At some point, Hondo met up with his old friend Chewbacca to play Dejarik, and apparently Chewie flipped the table over after losing a game or two. Just small details that we get throughout these books. Not long after, Hondo swapped stories with Sana Starros, including one where she claimed to encounter legendary bounty hunter Dirge, though Hondo didn't really believe her, as in all the time that he was in the criminal world, he's never once encountered Dirge, because Dirge's character from Legends. The Pike Syndicate hires Hondo to take raw spice from Castle de Coruscant soon after the fall of the Empire from power, but oh gosh, oh darn, it seems as if Hondo's crew accidentally loaded valuable shipping fuel coaxium from Kessel instead. Well, that's not what they were hired to transport, so it seems that the contract is null and void, and he gets to keep that valuable fuel for his shipping business. What an unfortunate mistake. Yeah, Hondo continues to make his fair share of enemies. While he's working to keep himself in the good graces of the law in the eyes of the newly formed New Republic, it's not too long until a price of 7,000 credits is put on his head nonetheless. He does not know who did put this price up. It could have been any one of the business partners that he's wronged in the past, or maybe someone else holding a grudge for many different reasons. But in preparation for bounty hunters potentially coming after him and his business associates at Ohnaka Transport Solutions, he writes a collection of knowledge on bounty hunters and distributes it to his employees and trusted associates so that way they can learn from his lifetime of wisdom on the subject. I mean, he was a member of the Bounty Hunters Guild at some point, and he was best friends with Jango Fett, and he got around with Aura Singh, so he knows a thing or two about bounty hunters. With this threat of bounty hunters coming for him, Hondo considers hiring doppelgangers or hiding on a scrapped Star Destroyer on Jakku, but ultimately decides that he's just going to pay off any bounty hunter that comes after him. Now, he knows that paying double what the bounty hunter was offered, that's not going to fly with most of their moral codes. But offering to pay triple what they're offered, that he's sure will get him out of trouble. If Hondo does end up appearing in Skeleton Crew, this is where I'll put that segment in. And if I haven't cut to me in different clothes or possibly at a different location, that means he is not in Skeleton Crew, which is unfortunate. I'm enjoying the show so far, so I'm not going to hold it against the show, but Hondo's just cool. But if recording this right now, pre-then, it would be cool to see bounty hunters coming after him. Ooh, who knows? Who knows? I know, Hondo does not appear in Skeleton Crew, which is totally fine. The series stood absolutely well on its own. It did not need cameo city, and that kind of became more evident as the series was going on, that they weren't really going to draw on that past, which Star Wars needs more of going forward. But a Skeleton Crew had a season 2. Hondo once again crosses paths with the Millennium Falcon in another section of the Pirate's Price book by Lou Anders, a few years before the events of The Force Awakens. He's visiting Maz Kanata's castle on Takodana for a business meeting when he sees that the Millennium Falcon is landed nearby as well. He approaches the ship, but is shooed away by Han Solo, who has aged much since Lando has last seen him. As Hondo walks away, 2 thugs come up behind Han and Chewbacca and shock them with stun batons. With their unconscious bodies being dragged away, Millennium Falcon's boarding ramp lowered. Hondo just sees this as the galaxy gifting him this ship that he's wanted for so long. Hondo climbs into the cockpit, prepares to take off, but a blaster presses against the back of his neck. Maz Kanata has also entered the Falcon's cockpit, but she was planning on taking the Falcon to rescue Han and Chewie. To avoid angering the Pirate Queen, Hondo says that of course he was doing the same thing. Maz knows that he's lying, but is still willing to take the help now that she's forced him into it. With Hondo flying the Falcon, they follow the signal on a tracker that Maz slipped into one of Solo's drinks, because that boy will drink anything I give him. On the way, Maz explains that an up-and-coming criminal organization, the Hackjackers, has been stealing ships from her territory, Takodana, and scrapping them to sell for parts. She hired Han Solo and Chewbacca to look into this, posing as buyers, but obviously their cover has been blown. The tracker signal leads them to a hidden underground base elsewhere in the Takodana forest. There, in the darkness, underground, they nearly walk into the reach of a hungry and chained-up Nexu beast. Hondo, who already didn't want to be here, says that this is a good sign to leave, to which Maz snaps that if he leaves, she will skin him alive and hang his skin on a pole next to the Ohnaka gang flag that hangs from her castle. This convinces Hondo to stay. Understandably. They sneak past the Nexu and talk their way into getting past the 2 guards who are up front. They convince the guards to just surrender and be tied up because Maz Kanata's like, yo, I'm Maz Kanata. Past that, They find that this is not only where Han and Chewie are being held, but it's also the chop shop where they are disassembling their stolen ships. Maz, absolutely enraged at seeing her boyfriend captured and this operation happening on her world, just charges forward with Chewbacca's bowcaster. She fires at the boss, but when she misses and the recoil from the bowcaster, which is like the size of her, sends her flying back into Hondo, it knocks the wind out of both of them. They're surrounded by pirates and captured. Maz and Hondo are held with Han Solo and Chewbacca. The boss of this operation, Jeppo Dweebop. That's such a Star Wars name. Jeppo Dweebop comes to taunt them and says that he's so happy that he'll be able to take over Maz's castle. Hondo then asks to be released, saying the password that indicates that he was the buyer that they were waiting for. As Han, Chewie, and Maz cuss him out, Hondo is released and goes to inspect the Hackjackers' goods. It's then that the Hackjackers find the Millennium Falcon parked out in the forest, and they bring it in. Jeppo orders the ship to be broken down for parts. Hondo argues that it's a historic ship and it shouldn't be destroyed, but Jeppo says that it's just too old. With that, Hondo goes to free the hungry Nexu, who attacks the Hackjackers. In the chaos, he frees Han, Chewie, and Maz. Jeppo and most of the Hackjackers are killed, and everybody mostly forgives Hondo, since he did free them and save the Falcon in the end. But when he requests a rescue fee, they all storm away from him. A few years later, a little while after the events of The Last Jedi, the Millennium Falcon comes into Hondo's life once again. With Ohnaka Transport Solutions up and running from its headquarters on the world of Batuu, Hondo gets a call from Chewbacca. Hondo learns that, sadly, Han Solo has recently gone up to the great smuggler den in the sky. I love that phrasing. And the Falcon now belongs to Chewbacca and a young Jedi named Rey. They need a replacement power core, but since the ship is old and heavily customized, it's harder and harder to find power cores that work for it. Hondo and Chewie make a deal. Hondo will replace the Falcon's power core and provide some additional parts to Chewbacca's friends in the Resistance, and in exchange, Chewie loans the Falcon to Ohnaka Transport Solutions for a time. Very happy with this deal, Hondo goes to pick up the Falcon from Chewie and plots a course back to Batuu. On the way, Hondo discovers a small problem with the current state of the Falcon. It is absolutely infested with porgs. They steal his lunch, they lead him on a chase across the Falcon, and they're just generally pests to him, screaming and fluttering about and chirping all the while. It's honestly quite funny to listen to in the audiobook. I loved this section. He's just so distracted that he does not notice when the Falcon comes out of hyperdrive face to face with a pirate ship. As the pirate ship attaches a boarding ramp, Hondo's sure that he'll be able to talk his way out of whatever situation this is. The boarding party may even be a friend of his. He knows pirates. He is shocked to see that the Pachyfontos enemy he made with Han Solo and Chewbacca all those years ago, Truck Addermush, is the pirate boarding his ship. Hondo is taken prisoner aboard Trunk's ship, and the Pachyfontos take over the Falcon. In his cell, Hondo was followed by one of the porgs, who wanted to steal more of the blue puff cubes that he'd been eating for lunch. Hondo throws a puff cube onto the release button for his cell, and the porg, who Hondo has affectionately named Puffy, frees him by following the cube and pressing the button. Hondo's escape is a chaotic spectacle to behold as a flock of hungry porgs swarm around him and all quickly learn that he gives them extra food if they press buttons that he needs pressed. So the Pachyfontos pirates must contend with one old Weequay pirate with a blaster, followed by a cloud of screaming porg who are flinging themselves full force body tackling into anything that blinks or protrudes from the wall. When they reach the cockpit, the porgs have so many buttons. Doors open and close, alarm sound, thrusters fire in random directions, airlocks throughout the ship open. It's so wonderful. Trunk rushes off the Falcon and back to his own ship to see just what the absolute hell is going on. The porgs, now so full from all of the puff cubes that Hondo has given them, sorry, I forgot where this sentence is going. The porgs, now so full full with all of the blue puff cubes that Hondo has fed them. Shit all over this elephant man. Hondo, laughing, rushes back to the Falcon with his flocks of now shit-free porg, releases the docking clamps, and blasts off into hyperspace. Woo! Oh, I need a second before I can continue. Woo. Galaxy's Edge Black Spire by Delilah S. Dawson. One, I absolutely loved this book. Like, it's actually one of my favorite Star Wars books that I've read, and I've read quite a few. While Hondo doesn't appear in the novel itself, the presence of Porg woodwork on Batuu shows that the events of Hondo acquiring the Falcon must have occurred before this novel, as the Porgs came to Batuu from the Millennium Falcon. And we will get back to this book in just a second, but first, Galaxy's Edge comic series issues 3 through 4. Soon after, the First Order begins to take an interest in Batuu as word reaches them that the Resistance may have set up a base near Black Spire Outpost, which is the main port on the planet. Hondo begins taking a bit more precaution when meeting with potential customers in the opening, hiring a fortune teller to vet clients on his behalf. As part of Doc Ondar's extremely intricate and very hard to follow plan to get Kendo, the Scourge of Sereno, and the Thief of Tandor 6 to reunite the blade and the hilt, which have been separated, of the Sword of Cassian, and unknowingly bring it back to him. So that's Doc Ondar's plan in all of this. So he hires Hondo to spy on Kendo on his behalf. Knowing that Ohnaka Transport Solutions is the most viable way to get goods illicitly snuck off of Batuu, Kendo goes to meet Hondo in Oga's cantina, as she is planning to, she plans on stealing both of these two parts and then leaving with them. But Doc wants her to get these two parts and then he's going to take them from her. It's confusing. After being vetted by Hondo's fortune teller, Kendo asks Hondo if he's sure he can get past the First Order ships. Hondo boasts about the time he and Doc Ondar flew past the Imperials over Jeddah after stealing an artifact from the Guardians of the Wills. Doc is annoyed by this, because really, who name drops the person they're spying for while spying on this person's behalf? But Kendo does take Hondo's bait, asking him for more information about what she wants to steal from Doc Ondar, the hilt of the Sword of Cassian. Having confirmed for sure that that's what they are after, Hondo returns to Doc Ondar to tell what he learned and to ask what happened to him and Dr. Aphra on their trip to retrieve the sword together all those decades ago. Doc Ondar tells him the tale of how the sword was acquired and how he and Dr. Aphra ended up betraying each other on the job, which led to him abandoning her with the hilt and him leaving the planet with the blade. At this point, Kendo and her crew arrive at Doc Ondar's antiquities to steal the hilt, but then the First Order also arrives to arrest Kendo and her crew. Between all of this chaos at the end of the 4th issue of the series, it seems like the writer just kind of forgot Hondo was there in the 5th issue, because he's not even in the background of all the characters when he was at the end of the 4th issue. But knowing Hondo, I think it's just safe to say that he snuck out amidst the chaos, because why wouldn't he? When the bounty hunter and First Order spy Bazine Natal is hired to track down the Millennium Falcon for an unknown client and acquire it, she tears through the underworld to find it. She speaks to the likes of IG-88, Embo, Lady Proxima, and Gannis Duquesne to track it down. Word reaches Hondo that she's after it, so by the time she shows up to Oga's cantina on Batuu, he is prepared. At the end of the Pirate's Price novel by Lou Anders, she approaches him during a game of sabacc with some of his friends. He steps aside to talk business, and she says that she is authorized by her employer to negotiate a price for the purchase of the Millennium Falcon. He wants to ask for a very large price, so to justify the high price of this ship, he tells her the stories of every time he's come in contact with the Millennium Falcon. That job with Han Solo and Chewbacca from Majho Rilu, the incident on Takodana, and how he finally got the ship to the Falcon and nearly lost her to pirates in the same day, and then saved it due to Porg shit. All to justify his price, but, well, we'll get there. Bazine says it's not her money anyway, so she pays him an amount that she says could purchase a squadron of old YT freighters, and she leaves with the Falcon to rendezvous with her employer. But I told you we'd get back to it. What she doesn't know is that Hondo told these stories to stall her, giving his Sabacc friends enough time to contact his old friend, Majho Rilu, alive and well. Majho follows Bazine to the rendezvous point and pretends to be Bazine's employer so she can collect the Falcon and take it right on back to Hondo. This plan lets Hondo make lots of profit at no cost, doesn't anger Chewbacca for losing the Falcon, and puts Bazine off his trail since he sold her the Falcon fair and square, so why would she assume that he went and stole it back? Celebrating with a drink at the cantina, Hondo makes help-wanted signs for Ohnaka Transport Solutions. Now that he firmly has the Millennium Falcon, he'll need a crew to take on its smuggling runs for him and his legitimate business. I told you we'd get back to this as well. In the short story Return to a Shattered Planet, also by Delilah Dawson in the back of this paperback version of the book, which again, rocks. I can't recommend it enough. Chewbacca and the leader of the Batuu resistance cell, V. Moradi, ask Hondo to use the Falcon for a discreet rescue mission. He says that that's impossible as the Falcon is currently off making runs for Ohnaka Transport Solutions, but he offers them his Coyote cargo ship. They take the ship, and when he tries to bargain a price, they simply tell him to bill the General, which of course he can't, because General Organa is in hiding. In the VR game, Tales from Galaxy's Edge Last Call, one day while Hondo is out drinking at Sisalak's Cantina, a much smaller bar than Oga's Cantina on Batuu, Sisalak is telling a story to his patrons that greatly upsets the First Order. While Hondo is in the restroom, the First Order arrests Sisalak, the barkeep and owner of the establishment. Mubo, Black Spire Outpost's main droid repairer, comes to check up on his friend along with R2-D2 and C-3PO, who have been staying with him while working for the Resistance on the planet. They also contact Doc Ondar, and the three friends of Mubo come up with a plan to save him from First Order custody. Ohnaka Transport Solutions is delivering a shipment of parts to the new First Order communication outpost, and Hondo lets the player of this video game sneak into the shipment so that way they can go into the First Order base and infiltrate it. All he asks for in exchange for his help saving their friend is having the player download some coaxium transport schedules from Corellia that are in the First Order databanks. It's simple. While disguised as a stormtrooper and communicating with everybody else back at the bar, the player learns that the base is actually not a communication center, but a complete re-education center where they are brainwashing people to turn all of Black Spire Outpost slowly into First Order loyalists. They are testing their methods on Sisalak. Hondo is, of course, extremely concerned by this, because that means they might not have the coaxium transport schedule that he wants. The bounty hunter Len's Camo and her friend Ayu arrive to help the player as they rescue Sisalak. Hondo picks them up in one of his ships while the player destroys the First Order facility with R2-D2's help. Hondo then picks them all up and everybody goes back to Sisalak's to celebrate. And I know you were worried. Don't worry, Hondo did in fact manage to get that schedule of coaxium transport and asks Doc Ondar if he'd be able to borrow a ship to help with grabbing the coaxium, but Doc's like, no, I don't do that. But Hondo's like, that's alright, I'm sure the Falcon can take care of it. And that leads us to the Galaxy's Edge ride, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. In the waiting line for the area, you hear Hondo Ohnaka, a honestly pretty well-made animatronic, say, after a bad incident with some ion cannons, which he insists he was not selling because that would be highly illegal, he needs to have a win for his business. He greets the new flight crews that will man the Millennium Falcon for its transport runs. Chewbacca calls to remind him to avoid First Order detection. Hondo is, of course, less concerned about that, and more concerned with the profits that can be made that day. As the crew, which is you in the ride, pilot the Millennium Falcon to Corellia, Hondo and Chewbacca are in constant communication with you. Hondo's ship flies alongside the Falcon and grabs coaxium containers as the Falcon blasts them free from the hover trains transporting them. When the First Order shows up, Hondo has the Falcon crew blow up the remaining coaxium on the train to destroy a First Order Star Destroyer. They then escape back into hyperspace and emerge safely back on Batuu, where Chewie remotely takes over the Falcon and lands it. It has taken some damage, but the Resistance has gained some coaxium to aid in the fight against the First Order, and, most importantly, Hondo has made quite a profit. Now, the timing for all of these events when Hondo has the Millennium Falcon are a little suspect, and in Star Wars timelines, they kind of imply that he loses the Falcon to Chewie, but then Chewie decides to give it back. I don't think that really makes too much sense, so I'm saying that Hondo's last canon appearance thus far is in the Star Wars Adventures Flight of the Falcon one-shot comic. While playing Sabacc with Balatik of the Guavian Death Gang, Hondo brags about tricking Bazine Natal and being able to keep the Millennium Falcon, the fastest ship in the galaxy. When Balatik talks smack, Hondo challenges him to a race. Majo Rilu, who's hanging out with Hondo, apparently, does not like this plan, especially since Chewbacca is on his way right now to pick up the Millennium Falcon and take it back to the Resistance. Hondo says not to worry, especially since he has Puffy, his good luck Porg, with him. And he's loaded with shit. The race turns out to be a trap, as a larger Guavian Death Gang ship comes and puts the Falcon in a tractor beam. Hondo plans on just abandoning the ship. He was about to give it up anyway. Yeah, maybe Chewie will be mad, but he can go take it out in the Guavian Death Gang. Whatever. But Majo bluffs and tells the Guavians that they have a supply of military-grade explosives currently on the Falcon that they will detonate if they tractor beam too close. The play works, and Majo pilots them out of there and back to Batuu. Chewbacca is annoyed that the Falcon wasn't there when he arrived. Hondo tries to convince Chewbacca to let him keep the Falcon for just a little bit longer, as he can make more profit with it, and he'll give Chewie a bigger cut. Think of it, think how much more money the Resistance could make. Chewbacca and Majo both joke about how much Hondo hasn't changed, as he keeps slightly increasing the percent cut that he offers to Chewbacca. And that is the end, presently, of Hondo Ohnaka's tale in the galaxy. Interesting how much he has changed from the beginning, but also how much he hasn't. And I don't know if we will ever see the death of Hondo Ohnaka, or if he's just kind of too beloved or legendary of a character for them to ever do that. But I do hope that he ends up being inspired by, even though I guess they both did survive, so maybe he'll think he will also. But he has been inspired by the past by the noble sacrifices of Majo Rilu and Ezra Bridger. So perhaps a noble sacrifice for something that he believes in, like the Jedi. He has stated on many times that him and Kenobi used to be friends. He obviously formed a connection with the youngling Katuni, with Ezra. Maybe he forms a bond with Rey through his connection with the Resistance, but we haven't seen the end of his story yet because he's not dead, and I'm interested to see where else he may possibly pop up in the future, including the Outlaws DLC, which I'm excited to play. Whew! So yeah, that was every canon appearance that Hondo Ohnaka has had to this date. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please let me know what you think down in the comments below. And are there any other characters that you'd want to see me do a full breakdown of all of their appearances and their story and progression as a character like this? Let me know in the comments below. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and have a good week.